Sorry about that. I hereby call the special meeting of October 1st, 2024 to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Beck?
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Crawford?
Here.
Councilmember Patena?
Here.
Councilmember Finn?
Here.
Councilmember Dunn?
Here.
And Councilmember Schaefer, I believe, will be out for the executive session. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved. Second.
Please vote. And we have a 6-0. Thank you. We will now enter into executive session. Hereby call the October 1st, 2024 study session to order. Will the clerk please, do you need to call the roll, or you just want to note the roll? Call the roll?
It's up to you.
Let's note the roll.
Got it.
Yeah. The only item on the agenda today is Proposition 479 overview. For this presentation, I will now turn it over to Development and Engineering Director Jeff Kern.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, Manager Darwin. Hopefully, you're all well aware of Prop 479 that's coming up for election this fall. It is a incredibly important proposition that needs to pass to continue allocating those funds for some really important CIP projects. So I'm happy to introduce John Bullen from MAG to give you this presentation and really give you the meat and potatoes of what we're looking at here.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Thrilled to be here tonight, not just as a employee at MAG, but also as a Peoria resident. So excited I could be here to give you an update on Proposition 479. So I want to start off by just providing a little bit of background, namely who is MAG. So we are the Maricopa Association of Governments. We are the regional planning agency for the Greater Phoenix Metropolitan Region. Our planning area covers all of Maricopa County, as well as portions of northern Pinal County. Our membership is comprised of 27 cities and towns, 2 counties, 3 native nations, and our planning area is roughly the size of the state of Maryland, so it's quite substantial. We're governed, of course, by the MAG Regional Council. It's made up of elected officials from all our member agencies, including Mayor Beck. We also have a number of other MAG committees staffed by a number of different elected officials as well as staff. So our Transportation Policy Committee, who's really responsible for creation of the plan, implementation of the plan. Vice Mayor Edwards sits on that on behalf of the city. And then, of course, Mr. Darwin sits on our MAG Management Committee. Perhaps what MAG is best known for is steward of Maricopa County's dedicated half-cent sales tax for transportation. To provide a little context, here is the high-capacity transportation network in the region before 1986. And just want to emphasize what infrastructure was in place before this dedicated half-cent sales tax was first passed by Maricopa County voters. We had I-17, we had portions of I-10, so I-10 did not even connect, and we had portions of US 60, and that was it. And of course, the community, members of the business community, as well as local elected officials, recognizing the need for more robust transportation infrastructure to have the type and kind of community that they envisioned, first put forward a plan back in the mid-1980s. That was subsequently approved by Maricopa County voters through Proposition 300, and that really authorized the first dedicated half-cent sales tax. Maricopa County voters extended that in 2004 with Proposition 400, and the next continuation will be on the ballots this November as Proposition 479. So what has that sales tax really delivered in terms of infrastructure and transportation here in the region? Well, a lot, in short. So the map on the screen shows those improvements funded through Proposition 300. That really laid the initial framework for the freeway infrastructure that we see out on the street today. So Proposition 300 was responsible for funding Loop 101, Loop 202, State Route 51, and State Route 143. So certainly had a very significant impact on our region's transportation system. With the maturing region came more diverse transportation needs. And so with Proposition 400, funding went not only to continued freeway investments, but also arterials and transit investments. And so Prop 400, which is in place through December 31st, 2025, has funded the construction of Loop 303, Loop 202 South Mountain, provides more than 7.5 million miles of bus transit service every year, provides nearly 100% of the ADA paratransit service, that's service for seniors and disabled. It's provided funding for more than 250 miles of new and improved roadways. And what is not pictured here are a number of freeways that it's also provided funding to widen and improve. We can see really the impact of Prop 400 in Peoria on this map. This map shows the arterial projects that were funded in part through Proposition 400. They range from construction and widening of Happy Valley Road and Lake Pleasant Parkway in the northern section of the city, to construction of Northern Parkway, improvements to 83rd Avenue and 75th Avenue in the southern. So quite a significant impact. I think this map really illustrates how important that's been. See a similar story on the freeway side. So this is a map of freeway improvements funded through Proposition 400 in the city of Peoria. It's provided funding to widen the Loop 101. In fact, the Loop 101 project that's under construction now between 75th Avenue and I-17 was funded through Prop 400. Provided funding for construction of Loop 303, the El Mirage Road interchange, improvements to Thunderbird, Loop 101 at Thunderbird, Loop 101 at Olive, and improvements to Grand Avenue. So really it has made a very substantive impact on the transportation network, not just across the region, but also here in Peoria. And we all know the link between transportation investments and the economy. The slide sort of summarizes what some of those investments made through Prop 300 and Prop 400 have met. Saves folks on average more than 100 hours in traffic every single year. 80% of the jobs here in Maricopa County are located within 2 miles of a freeway or light rail corridor, and certainly has had major impacts for property values in terms of those businesses located along transportation corridors. I think another really important point to make too is that as you look at our region, as you look at competition for jobs and bringing high quality jobs, certainly our transportation investments have had significant impact. And so what this slide shows are some metrics that independent entities have put together, really evaluating travel in our region relative to others. So the first is what's called Travel Time Index, put together by Texas A&M Transportation Institute. This is essentially how reliable is your commute getting from point A to point B. In this report, Phoenix was atop the list. And again, that's as a result of the direct investment that's been made over a number of years. Similarly, the company INREX puts together a report looking at the cost of delay per driver. Lower the cost, the better. Our region, again, atop that list as a result of the direct investment that has been made. This is another chart that I think really does a good job illustrating that point. Greater Phoenix Economic Council. This shows all their major business locates between 1990 and 2022. You see a strong correlation between those business locates and the freeway network. Not an accident. Another aspect to consider, there's widespread public support for transportation investments. One of the first things we did when we put together the plan is we went out to the community, we went out and tried to see what the public really valued, what they prioritized. And what we heard is consistent support for the transportation investments that have been made. People appreciate how easy it is to get around. They feel like it's well planned out. They have no idea who does the planning, but they appreciate the planning, they appreciate the investments, they appreciate the foresight. So it's really important to take in consideration that there is high public support for transportation investments. Now I want to take a look at what's to come with Proposition 479. So when we started this process back in 2018, the first thing we did is we went through and we assembled all the information from all the work that we've done, all the work that ADOT did, all the work from our local agencies. We went out to all the local agencies, asked them to submit their projects, their needs over the next 20, 25 years. And what we found is there's a lot of need. In fact, there was more than $90 billion worth of identified transportation need at the time. And so certainly we had our work cut out for us putting together a plan. But fortunately, that plan ultimately culminated with unanimous approval by all the MAG member agencies in the Valley back in 2021. That plan ultimately will be supported in part by Proposition 479. And so here you can see a number of the defined projects as part of the plan. I want to highlight a few of them here. It includes construction of a new freeway corridor in the Southwest Valley, State Route 30. This is the I-10 reliever. And just to really illustrate the importance of regional transportation, regional connectivity, one of the reasons why this facility is so incredibly important is because a lot of the growth that you're seeing along the 303, a lot of the new development and a lot of those new suppliers really depend on this facility to get in and out of the valley. So this is a great example of, well, this is a freeway in the Southwest Valley. It's really important for commerce throughout the entirety of the region. We have a number of other defined improvements identified, and I want to walk through several of those that are in the city of Peoria specifically. So here you can see a map of those arterial projects within the city of Peoria. Again, it ranges from widening and improvements of Lake Pleasant Parkway between Loop 303, State Route 74, construction of Joe Max Road between Dysart and Vistancia, building out El Mirage Road between Loop 303 and Joe Max, to other optimization or really improvement projects such as along 107th Avenue and Thunderbird. So here's a map that shows all those defined arterial projects as part of the plan. Number of other freeway improvements too, as illustrated on this map. And so, for instance, if you look today, if you're traveling along Loop 303, you'll notice that east of Lake Pleasant Parkway, it drives, looks, feels more like an arterial roadway, and that's because that's just an interim condition. And so a few years back, that was fine. It served traffic just fine. But a lot has happened between even 2019 and today. And so what you're seeing is massive development along Loop 303, I-17. And so that's a great illustration of freeway infrastructure that we need to build out. You see traffic back up today on I-17 at 303. And so we need those improvements identified in the 479 investment plan, like the system interchange at 303 and I-17. We have funding identified to complete the Loop 101 to fully build that out, fully widen that, improve the Loop 101 at Bell Road. That's a big interchange. A lot of traffic uses that every single year. Improvements at Lake Pleasant Parkway, State Route 74. Improvements along Grand Avenue, and additional access improvements on and off the Loop 101. There's also a number of additional freeway investments identified that, while perhaps not within the city of Peoria itself, certainly provide significant benefit, whether that's improvements at Loop 101 at 67th and 59th Avenue. Both those facilities are used by residents from throughout the region, including Peoria. Construction of improvements at Loop 303 and US 60. That's an area experiencing a lot of traffic challenges today. This funding source will provide the needed monies to be able to complete those. Improvements at along Grand Avenue, and reconstruction improvements to I-17, which is a major thoroughfare in and out of the city. In addition to those defined capital projects, we've also set aside money for what we call competitive programs. So these are really commitments to different topical areas that we'll go through a process to identify what the specific projects are incrementally. And really the reason that we do that, when we're talking, whether it's traffic signal technology or intersection improvements, it's really hard to be able to identify projects 15, 20 years from now. And so this really allows us to be more responsive, adaptive to needs. But these improvements are also a very critical part of the overall investment plan. And so I walked through all those defined arterial street projects. But as part of the investment plan, we've actually set aside funding above and beyond those defined projects. So we've set aside funding for additional street rehabilitation, additional street widening, additional street development beyond what those projects are. ITS, traffic signal technology to get people around quickly and efficiently, funding for safety, which is incredibly important, as well as funding for emerging technologies. That's another area that we don't quite know what that's going to look like, but we wanted, our policymakers wanted to put our region in the position where we could be responsive, adaptive, and really be national leaders in the space and whatever comes up over the course of the next 20 years. So these are really important investments. This chart here shows the overall sort of financial portfolio of the investment plan itself. You can see the total revenue as well as the total expenditures. This does a good job of really laying out where the funding is coming from and where the funding is going. We leverage and have leveraged and will continue to leverage the dedicated half-cent sales tax against the other funding sources available to the region. And this really enables our dollars to go further and make the impact of those improvements stretch even further. What will it all mean? Well, this is critically important for our transportation network. I want to highlight a couple of areas on the slide. With these improvements, we've modeled a number of them, and what we find is that traffic is going to flow much better. People will be able to get home quickly. They'll be able to spend more time with their family. There'll be more roadways that are in good condition. The investment plan is also forecasted to create or sustain almost 32,000 jobs every year. Of those 32,000 jobs, too, based on our economic analysis, more than 70% are median to high wage range jobs. So those are not just any jobs, those are high quality jobs, too. And then this graphic, too, even with our projected population growth, even with projected job growth, with these investments, the average commute time in our region in 2050 will still be less than 30 minutes. You compare that to some of our peers today, and it's actually an improvement. So our projected average commute times in 2030 will be less than the current averages in LA, Chicago, Houston, and Seattle today, which really speaks to the foresight of the investments in Prop 300 and 400, and then really the importance of the investments identified as part of our investment plan. So just a few points I want to emphasize. So Prop 479 is the continuation of Maricopa County's dedicated half-cent sales tax. And so this was a sales tax first approved by Maricopa County voters back in 1985. This would be a continuation. So the amount that folks would pay on January 1, 2026 is the exact same amount that they will pay on December 31st, 2025. So I want to emphasize that point. I just touched on this, but really with those projects, with those programs that we have identified in the investment plan, we are projected to keep our 30-minute average commute, which is quite remarkable considering the growth that we continue to forecast. And without Prop 479, all the projects that we have identified will be at risk. We won't have a dedicated funding stream to be able to implement them. What will that look like? Maricopa County has already begun to mail out publicity pamphlets, so voters might have seen those in their mailboxes. This is the question that voters will receive as part of their ballot, which essentially asks whether or not they support continuation of the dedicated half-cent sales tax here in Maricopa County. And lastly, I just want to touch briefly on what will happen if Prop 479 does not pass. And so as we look at the investment plan for Prop 479 and we compare it to Proposition 400, really the largest area that we've seen growth in from Prop 479 compared to Prop 400 are those categories of projects that are built and constructed by local agencies, really to fulfill those local needs that tie into the regional transportation system. And you might ask yourself, why? Why did that category really see the highest growth? And I think these next couple of slides really demonstrate really how important this funding stream is. And so what this chart on the screen shows is total statewide highway user revenue fund, or HERF, collections going back to 2000, controlled for inflation. Now, the Arizona State Legislature established HERF back in the 1970s. It was intended to be the primary funding source for transportation investments, not just at the statewide level, but also the local level. However, if you look back at total statewide HERF collections going back to 2000, controlled for inflation, you see that in those bars, and then that light block behind it shows the total statewide population. And so what you find is that when you control for inflation, our HERF collections in 2023 were actually less than they were in the year 2000. Over that same time period, the state's population has grown more than 45%. So that has put a big strain on local budgets. That's put a big strain on you all as you identify those necessary projects to make sure that people get where they need to go safely, and really has increased the reliance on Prop 479 and the dedicated fund, Maricopa County's dedicated half-cent sales tax for transportation investments. There's a number of transit routes that are also at risk. What is not pictured on here too is that ADA paratransit service. So again, that's service for seniors and disabled, the most vulnerable in our community. It's nearly funded 100% by the region. Without a 479, that service is all at risk. And then of course, we have a number of really critical freeway projects at risk. Not only will this impact average commutes, people getting from point A to point B, but if you look at a lot of the economic development activity, if you look at a lot of those job growth centers from around the valley, there's a strong correlation between those and where we have the projects. We need those projects to be able to keep up. We need those projects to be able to continue to retain our economic vitality. And so this is just an illustration of some of those projects relative to areas that are really seeing a lot of economic development right now. And all those projects will be at risk without the funding source. So with that, Mayor Beck, members of the council, that completes my presentation. I'll turn it back over.
Yeah, and just to put a bow on this, and then we'll open up for some questions. I was doing some quick math. This represents about $185 million of freeway funding for those freeway projects that John had mentioned that directly affect us. It further affects a total of approximately $240 million of arterial road work that we have planned. $170 million of that would be the cap of regional funding. So you can imagine if this doesn't go through, we're going to have a real challenge even keeping up with the growth that we've got on the books now. So obviously, I'm sure you all support it, but to the extent you can help your constituents understand the importance of this, certainly appreciate it. So any questions for?
Councilor Crawford? Was that from last meeting? Councilor Edwards? I'm just going to start left or right. How about that?
Thank you, Mayor. A good presentation. So you talk about at-risk, you used at-risk a lot. So if 479 doesn't pass, do all of the cities come back to the drawing board and basically start picking and choosing what projects that they feel they're going to do? Or does jurisdictional equity kick in from the past? Because I know, prior to 479, there's been some issues with jurisdictional equity for the West Valley cities because they weren't built out as quickly, before the East Valley. So typically, the East got more of the dollars before the West did. And so, are we going to be starting from scratch as far as jurisdictional?
So Mayor Beck, Vice Mayor Edwards, so without Prop 479, it's important to sort of consider the overall revenue portfolio. And so without a continuation of Maricopa County's dedicated half-cent sales tax, more than half of the dedicated funding source to be able to build and implement these really key regional projects will be gone. And truth is, the remaining funding, which is largely federal, with a very meager amount of state funding, will have to be focused on keeping our system in a state of good repair. So simply put, we will not be able to keep up with growth. The projects that we do have to allocate funding to will be very prescribed at making sure that sort of the investments that have been made are in a state of good repair. But it will provide huge challenges from a transportation perspective, and we don't exactly know what that will look like.
What about educational? So you're obviously out educating us this evening. What's your educational to the public? Because I've seen very few, if any, TV ads, signs in the streets, letting people know that this is coming. Seems like it's critical to every city and town in the state of Arizona that this passes, and it doesn't seem like the messaging, in my opinion, is out there.
Yeah, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Mayor Beck, Vice Mayor Edwards. So MAG as an entity, we can't advocate one way or the other. We can simply provide information. And so to the extent possible, we've taken advantage of opportunities like the one that you've presented us to come share the information about what's in the investment plan, what this means. All being told, I think we're north of 700 meetings, either during plan development or after plan development to educate and inform. But the campaign itself operates outside of MAG, and so we can only provide the information on that. Thank you. Sure.
Councilor Patena.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is very similar to Vice Mayor Edwards. The people that are promoting Prop 479, what are they doing to ensure its passage?
Yeah, Mayor Beck, Councilmember Patena. Again, I'm not familiar with the specifics of the campaign. I sort of can't speak to that, but MAG as an entity, we're certainly taking advantage of the opportunity to get out there, provide the messaging. This is my second presentation today as an example to sort of speak to the importance of this, but this is a very important funding source for our transportation system across the region, and I can't emphasize enough how important it has been in delivering what's there today and how critical it will be to deliver the transportation system that we really envision for tomorrow.
Councilmember Patena, Mayor Beck, I think an important distinction is this is not a new tax. It's simply a continuation of the same half-cent tax. And I think that, as I've talked to some folks, I've made sure to emphasize that we're not adding new taxes. It's simply continuing that tax. So to John's point, 2026 December will look the same as 2027.
I think to the point that you're making, I appreciate your presentation. If citizens want to continue growth, and if citizens want to continue to see good solid roadways, for us to be able to have better transportation, for us to continue the interchanges that Peoria has had. It is very important for hopefully people that are watching. We have the press here as well. Hopefully they report on it as well. 479 is extremely important to the health and growth of the state. And the reason I say that is because what happens in the state of Maricopa happens in the state of Arizona, right? And all transportation lanes go through Maricopa County, and it is extremely important for us to not only have solid freeways, but solid interchanges. If you look at what the city of Peoria has received overall in 479 in different projects, or 400 or 300 prior to that, it's approximately $280 million in total projects. It's a very, very big deal. If we did not have that money coming in from half cent across the county, what it would mean is that's more tax revenue that we would be spending towards that out of people's pockets directly, right? So it's extremely important for, when citizens for Surprise drive through the city of Peoria and they actually use our freeways or they use our roadways, all of us use those same areas, right? So I think from being a participant in MAG and being on the council from that standpoint and being able to listen to people's projects, we're starting to see more and more, to Councilmember Edwards' point, we're starting to see more and more projects in the West Valley. When you talk to former Mayor Smith over in Mesa, there used to be a giant consortium of mayors that focused on the East Valley itself, right? And how they were able to take great advantage of this because they had a huge population growth. And that is exactly what's happening in the West Valley. And for West Valley growth and West Valley economics, West Valley housing, these freeways and the money from 479 is extremely important for the continued growth and prosperity of our cities, and frankly, for our families to be able to spend more time with their families. If you are watching this or you are participating in this, I would personally, hope that voters would actually support 479. I know I am personally, and I hope that other people see that. So, all right, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And with that, we are adjourned until 6 p.m.
The Mayor and City Council welcome you to the Peoria City Council meeting. As a courtesy to others, please silence all phones. If you would like to address an issue that is on the agenda, or if you would like to speak to the council regarding a non-agenda item, please complete a speaker request form, which can be found in the front lobby of the Peoria City Council chambers or in the tray to the left of the speaker's podium. Please place the completed speaker request form in the second tray to the left of the speaker's podium labeled Request to Speak. All speakers will have 3 minutes to complete their comments. A countdown clock is easily visible on the left side of the wall behind the City Council dais. Only items listed on the agenda may be addressed by the Council. Since items presented as part of a speaker's request have not been listed on the agenda, and due to the requirements of open meeting laws, the Council will be unable to respond to items presented as part of the speaker's request. However, please be aware that your comments will be noted. The speaker's name will be called to speak at the appropriate time in the order that the forms were received. Thank you for your interest and participation in the Peoria City Council meeting.
Good evening and welcome to Peoria City Council meeting. I hereby call the meeting of October 1st, 2024 to order. Those who are able, please stand for the invocation by Reverend Andrew Aziz from the Assyrian Church of East. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I am honored and humbled to stand before you all to say the invocation prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Dear God, we stand before you, acknowledging your sovereign wisdom and mercy. As we gather in this council chamber to discuss the welfare of the city and its people, we seek your guidance and blessings. Grant these leaders the wisdom of Solomon, the courage of the prophets, and the humility of Christ our Savior. Let their deliberations be inspired by love, compassion, and justice for all, and may they serve the common good with integrity and a heart for the needs of every citizen, especially the vulnerable and marginalized. Lord, you are the source of peace and unity. In a world filled with division and discord, make this council a beacon of harmony, where differences are met with mutual respect and cooperation. Give strength to those who carry the heavy burden of leadership, and help them always to seek the welfare of others above personal gain. We pray for the city, its people, and all who work for the common good. Protect those who serve, from our leaders to the first responders, and all who work in service of their neighbor. In all things, O Lord, remind us of our dependence on your divine grace. Let your Spirit dwell among us, guiding every word, action, decision, that we may fulfill your will on earth as it is in heaven. We ask this through the intercession of your saints and with a prayer of our Lord Jesus Christ on our lips, to whom belongs all glory, honor, and praise, now and forever. Amen.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Beck.
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Crawford.
Here.
Councilmember Matena.
Here.
Councilmember Finn.
Here.
Councilmember Dunn.
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Present.
Council Youth Liaison Sarah Adamshaw. Council Youth Liaison Mania Tawari.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. If anyone would like to address the council about a matter, please submit a speaker request form, which can be found at the entrance of the room to the clerk at this time. Next, I would like to recognize Arts, Culture, and Library Services Director Mary Lou Stevens to introduce Peoria's Library Card and Story Contest winners. I thought everybody was here to talk about economics tonight.
That too. They all go hand in hand. Thank you, Mayor Beck and council members. We are so honored to be here this evening because we are going to recognize some pretty talented individuals, both artists and writers. And I can't wait for you to see the designs that they have submitted this year for both our Story Walk contest as well as our Library Card contest. I am joined this evening by Nathaniel Washburn, our Library and Cultural Services Manager, Heather Sorden, our Library Branch Supervisor for Sunrise Mountain Library, Jill Thompson, our Library Branch Supervisor for our main library, and we have some friends of the Peoria Public Library in our audience. I believe Brandy Dacus is here as well, so we want to thank them for their continued support for programs such as this. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Heather so we can give you our Story Walk Story Writing Contest winners. Oh, and please, when you come up for your recognition, please stay up here because we're going to have a special group photo with the mayor at the end. So don't leave.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for having the library here tonight to celebrate our city's young artists and authors. Tonight, we're honoring the winners of 2 contests, the Story Walk Story Writing Contest and the 19th Annual Library Card Contest. The library is very proud and excited to share the works of these young people, and we are confident the future of arts and literature are in good hands based on the many wonderful submissions we received this year for both contests. I'm going to start with the presentation for the Story Writing Contest. So this summer, we challenged elementary-aged kids to write their own story and enter the contest to have their stories featured at our story walks. There are 3 age groups for the entries. Group 1 for kids 6, 7, and 8, Group 2 for 9 and 10-year-olds, and Group 3 for ages 11 and 12. The stories were submitted, and a panel of judges rated each story, and I'd like to recognize our judges for this year. Mary Lou Stevens, Director of Arts, Culture, and Library Services. Toby Okiki with the Historic Preservation Commission, and Brandy Dacus from the Friends of the Peoria Public Library. Thank you all for your participation and help with this contest. And now for our winners. And starting with Group 1, in 3rd place, we have Everly Malden for her story, How the Bees Saved Their Honey. Everly's 6 years old and attends West Wing Homeschool Prep. She likes to play, and she also likes eating toast with her brother. And she wrote her own biographies, so I'm very impressed with her writing skills. She likes swimming too. She also likes seafood. In her free time, she likes to use her imagination for a little while. And in 2nd place, Harper Adler for her book, If You Wish Upon an Animal. Harper's 8 years old and attends the 3rd grade at West Wing Elementary School. Her hobbies include dance, reading, eating snacks, and playing with her 2 dogs, sister, and friends. And Harper Agia, 1st place in Group 1 for Lucas the Owl. Harper is 7 years old and is in the 2nd grade at Estancia Elementary. She loves to read, write, make crafts, and spend time with her mom, dad, and little sister. Congratulations. And now on to Group 2. In 3rd place, Audrey Adler for Daisy. Audrey is 10 years old in the 5th grade at West Wing Elementary, and her hobbies include drawing, dance, playing with her 2 dogs, her sister, and her best friend, Ob. And in 2nd place, Sedona Winger for Adventures of Loki Howling Fun. Sedona is 10 years old and in the 5th grade at Inspiration Mountain School. She loves to be involved in school and the community and wants to try everything. She enjoys being in the school choir and band, as well as doing anything outdoors and participating in sports. And our 1st grade winner for Group 2 is Sierra Scheidenberger for The Fox Escapes. Sierra is 9 years old in the 4th grade and is homeschooled. She's studying to become a classical pianist. She likes to draw dragons in forests and build Lego dragons. She loves fish because they're cute and funny. And our last group, Group 3, in 3rd place for his book, The World According to Sasquatch the Mouse, is Zev Johnson. Zev is 11 years old in the 6th grade at Candeo, Peoria, and he loves to stay active by swimming, shooting layups on the basketball court, and playing with his friends on the soccer field. He also likes remote control cars, reading, and Lego. Zev? In 2nd place for Freddie and Fiona's Adventure, Sophia Morrow, who's 12 years old. She attends Lake Pleasant Elementary School and is in the 7th grade. Besides writing, she likes swimming, playing video games, baking, traveling, and drawing. And our first place winner for Group 3, Sedona Scheidenberger, The Test of Tech. Sedona's 11 years old and in the 6th grade, and she's homeschooled. She's studying to be a violin soloist. She loves to learn new drawing techniques, make Lego creations, read the Wings of Fire books, which is a good series, and loves to play with her 3 sisters, and of course she loves dragons. And if you would like to see the complete books, you can see them at our story walks at the 3 community parks, and they'll rotate October, November, and December. And now I'll hand it over to Jill Thompson, the library card contest.
Thank you, Heather, and good evening, Mayor and Council. This year marks the 19th year of the annual library card contest. Every year, we receive hundreds of entries from our community, marking how successful and fun this contest has become. This year's summer theme was Adventure Begins at Your Library, and our youth and teen artists did not disappoint us with their amazing artwork, making it a challenge to select the winner. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our youth library card winner, Miss Parenthia Synthal. Parenthia is in 6th grade and is interested in reading, painting, sketching, and hanging out with her friends. She's learning how to play the saxophone as well as learning classical Indian dance. Parenthia wants to be a neurologist when she grows up. Next is our teen winner, and we'd like to introduce Miss Tessa Kaplan. Tessa is a sophomore and loves to read and draw. She enjoys theater and is currently playing the role of Hermione Granger in her high school production of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I expect an invite, by the way. Her goal is to grow up and enter into a field of work that can make a difference in people's lives. I'd like to congratulate all our winners from the Story Walk and the Library Card Contest. A special thank you goes out to the Friends of the Peoria Public Library for providing gift cards to our winners of these 2 contests. Their support of literacy and library allows us to expand programming and provide these amazing contests. Thank you.
Keep on going.
Right down there with the
Don't be afraid, the mayor does not bite. Act like you like each other.
everybody clear for a second. So before we, I'll wait for a second. So before we take kind of the next step here on the next item, if for those of you that are here for the prestige item, it has been asked by the applicant to be tabled until after the first of the year. You're more than welcome to stay, obviously, but I know there's a few people here, or there was a few people that were here for that. So that item is not on the agenda today. It has been tabled until after the first of the year. So. With that, next we will receive an update on the revitalization of downtown Peoria. For that, I would like to recognize DCM Mr. Mike Faust and Development Engineering Director Jeff Karen.
Mr. Mayor, Council, we were just making fun of the two engineers stepping in after all the fine artists just came in, so we'll try to keep it to a minimum.
Hey, a lot of those kids like Legos, so they might
Not only did they like Legos, but the one that enjoyed dragons and classical
Legos?
piano.
Yeah,
That was a great combination, and my favorite hobby was snacks.
Mine too.
We all like snacks. Sorry, now we got to get serious. So for tonight, we're going to touch on a couple of things, but we wanted to provide an update around some of the activities in downtown. So I'll take a couple of slides to talk about Caldwell County Barbecue and the Jefferson House project that we've made some progress on since we brought DAs in front of this council, I want to say back in April. And then Jeff will give an update on City Hall front yard, because if you remember, we provided some concepts for the community to respond to, and Jeff will give us an update on that. So just thinking about Caldwell and Jefferson, so just to orientate us real quick, this vicinity map depicts the locations of the project. So Caldwell, again, located downtown, directly off of Washington, directly across from Osuna Park. Jefferson House, located on the corner, I guess it'd be the northeast corner of 83rd Avenue and Jefferson. This is the first time that we're publicly showing all of the renderings for the Caldwell County Barbecue facility, and we're excited to do so. So just as a point of reminder, this particular agreement was for a turnkey facility that we would stand up, and then we have a 5-year lease with a lease option and an option to buy after year 1. So the budget depicted is for a full turnkey restaurant, so everything that has to be permitted up to and including the things that are approved by Maricopa County Health. The design team just submitted the site plan application last week. That was on last Tuesday they submitted, and the design is ongoing. So right now, the team is completing the construction documents. We're expecting those construction documents to come in probably right after the first of the year, get through the permitting process, and then construction can begin. The schedule as of today says that we'll be having brisket by Easter. The challenge to the team, Easter of 26, not 25, Mayor. We've challenged them to pull that left, and they're working hard, but I think that's a reasonable expectation for where we stand. The images that you see, the one in the top right corner, this would be as if you were standing at the old firehouse looking west. So you're looking into the western patio, you can see some of the smokers, and there's a walk-up bar on the outside. I'll show the site vertical, and then we have some more images. So again, this is looking directly down. We'll put the image of the restaurant in. This is approximately where it will go in its layout, and I've got a little better image here in a second. But ultimately, this is the north view. So if you were standing in Osuna Park looking south, this is what you would see. So just a couple things that I wanted to highlight that I think really speak to the team's initial design efforts. First and foremost is the full front glass windows, right? The exposed ability to see the trusses, I think is really clean, shows a lot of class, but also a nod back to the roots of downtown. The other thing that they did exceptionally well, and this connects with the Jefferson House project, which we'll touch on in a moment, is they, in order to reduce the overall square footage of the building without reducing the overall programming, they put the dry food storage in an air-conditioned shipping containers, and then the walk-in freezers are cladded to look like shipping containers. So what you see in the green images will be, 2 of them will be shipping containers, the freezer will be made to look, but it'll match really cleanly with the Jefferson House look. You can see the smokers from the street. Again, just a great classy view. This is the east and west look, so the one on the top is if you are at the old firehouse looking west. Again, you can see the smokers, you can see the stacked firewood, just a good, clean look. And they really look back at the inspiration of old downtown buildings, just a great look and feel. The west elevation is looking from the old Edwards Hotel site at the side. We prefer to build another building there directly adjacent, so you won't be staring at this wall. So we didn't spend too much time on that one. On a top view of the floor plan, a large amount of seating, a large amount of patio seating available, full bar, intended to be a very welcoming environment, but to have plenty of seats either shaded on the outside patio, so you see all the seatings on the east side, so you'd have full shade of the west setting sun in the evening, as well as a large amount of seating interior for that site. Switching gears, Jefferson House, a little bit further behind on the project schedule. So a ton of progress has been made on the Caldwell side. Like I said, the site plan is in, construction documents are proceeding. Jefferson House is a bit behind, and part of that is that the budget is slightly smaller. The original idea for this scope was a little larger, and it took quite a bit of time to just reconcile the two, to get the idea for the scope and grandeur of Jefferson House to fit within the budget. About 10 days ago, the teams found alignment between that scope and that budget, and so now very quickly they're working through schematic design to get to ultimately the pre-app submission. So the team is scheduling a pre-application now. The site plan is already starting to be worked and all the supporting documents. So the goal here, as that last bullet says, is to accelerate the schedule to close the gap. In order to control costs, the goal is to try to get the planning documents and ultimately construction documents sped up. So that way, that when the teams are mobilizing for construction on the Caldwell site, they'll be able to start construction on the Jefferson site. So exciting progress thus far. I think this is, again, our first opportunity to share some of the Caldwell renderings publicly. I think the working group we've had has been very receptive to what we've seen, and the partnership with both Jefferson House and Caldwell remains quite strong. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff, and he will touch on the front yard project.
So thanks, Mike. Mayor and Council, as you know, we have been out for public comment for a period of time now to sort of gauge the public's interest in the two options that we presented. I think you've all had a chance to see those prior. That comment period closed yesterday, and hopefully it's not a surprise that concept 2 was sort of the overwhelming winner, if you will, with 66% of the feedback. We did have 224 comments, which is a pretty good number for a request like this, so we felt good about the public engagement. Concept 2, if you recall, I think you've seen some of the video that was produced before. This is more of the circular front yard area with some mounding and where there's some discussion about, you see some of the palm trees that's rendering. Those palm trees that exist are nearing end of life for those trees, so there will probably be some departure from the palm trees. A lot of work to do still. We have a designer under contract, or in contract process, procuring that design firm. We will get them under contract and we will proceed fairly rapidly with this project. The intent is to try and segue the City Hall renovation work now into this front yard. So we'll hopefully move right from, the disruption at City Hall to disruption in front of City Hall. This project is going to take some time, but hopefully we can work with access to council chambers, access to City Hall. It'll be a bit of a process, but it's certainly going to be a great project when it's finished. We did take some word salad, if you will. We took a lot of the words and phrases we were hearing in the public comments and sort of put them in some different word graphs, if you will. You can see that the bolder, larger words were ones we heard more often. Obviously, grass was front of mind. I'm sure there's some correlation to our current parks program to do some turf replacement. I did want to just remind council and everyone that the overarching key design goal with this project is 0% net new grass. Obviously, all of our campus is irrigated with reclaimed water, but we also have a goal to be 0% net new grass. So whatever grass we're incorporating in this design will be mitigated by reducing or removing turf elsewhere in the campus. I do anticipate that the sort of the schematics you've seen already will reduce, that grass area is going to reduce in scope some to achieve this goal, but it was very clear in the comments that we received from the public that there was concerns about the grass, and so I wanted to reiterate that it is a design objective to be no net new grass. With that, we're available for any questions on.
Any questions? No? Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Next, I would like to recognize Human Resource Director Christine Nichols to introduce the joint presentation regarding the interest of United Phoenix Firefighters Association Local 493 and City Council.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening. We are here again before you to have the formal kickoff to the negotiations with the PFFA group. Joining me this evening is Brianne Nelson, Deputy HR Director, and Hunter Clare and Josh Manning, both of PFFA, Local 493. And I'm going to pass the time over to Bree now for a short presentation.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Darwin. It's good to be before you again. We warned you we'd be back, and here we are already. So I'm going to kind of whip through my presentation more quickly because you guys have heard it, and I know Hunter and Josh have a lot that they would like to share with you, so I want to give them some of my time. So just very quickly, we'll talk about the bargaining overview just to remind us or those in the audience. We'll talk about City Council's interests that you have communicated to us. PFFA will share their interests, which you have previously received, and then we'll talk about our next steps. So we're moving quickly, as you can imagine. So as a reminder, we have 4 labor groups here in the city of Peoria that represent 800 positions of city employees, and 3 of them are all expiring June 30, 2025. I'm not sure how that happened, but we're keeping really busy with this. But tonight, we want to specifically focus on PFFA Local 493. So with that, just as a reminder, we are here because it's specifically prescribed in the city code, chapter 6, that we come before you for a joint kickoff presentation, and then it prescribes how we're going to work through the specific negotiations where we will only be negotiating between hours, wages, and working conditions. You have already expressed to us what you want our role to be as city negotiators, and we are going to share that with the labor group and work as effectively as we can to meet your needs as well as their needs as well. And we'll keep you updated throughout the process like we always do. So in a really quick recap, you shared with us that you wanted high-performing employees, ensure that our core services are continuing forward. We are going to have mutually respectful and positive labor relations, be collaborative and try to problem solve, think outside the box where we can, be transparent, ensure our role integrity, and have regular communication both between the parties and between you as well. So we're going to be using a lot of data-driven decisions when it comes to compensation, looking at our staffing resources, and ensure that our contract is as clean as possible, because when we interpret the contract, we want to make sure that we're consistent each time that we do that, and the clean language helps with that. So I won't belabor the point, and I will let Hunter and Josh take over and share. Yep.
Thank you, Bree. Mayor, Council, City Manager Darwin, thank you for having us again up here. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it does worry me a little bit that Bree's submitting some of her time, so that must mean I talk way too much, so I'll try to keep it somewhat brief here. I think the last time we were up here too, excuse me, 2 years ago when we were sitting here, it was the same time that we had some of the other contest winnings, so it's kind of cool to have that same type of year come in all the time and get to see the up-and-comers that are going to run our city at some point. I'm joined up here by Josh Manning. Josh Manning is one of the people on our executive board, also serves as a newly promoted captain for our organization. and Josh has been a member of our executive team for quite a while. One of the reasons that he's also up here is because as a transition that we have going on, which I'll share with you, and it'll kind of be maybe a little surprise coming in, is Josh will serve as our lead negotiator through this upcoming negotiations terms. Unfortunately, after 20 years of service with the Peoria Fire Medical Department, the injuries that I suffered from the explosion back in 2019 are not going to allow me to continue to be a firefighter serving on the front lines anymore. So with that, I will be serving in a mentor role to assist our executive board through their area and making this transition, letting them build the relationships with HR, with you all, with our city management team, and continue to build those with our leader and Gary Bernard, that's back there rooting us on, to build upon those things and get the experiences that I've been lucky enough to have, for 20 years. I've been a part of the labor group since the very beginning in all capacities that could be in, and I've been doing our negotiating and leading for a little bit of time to here. So I really thank my membership for having that type of faith in me. But enough of that, let me get over to talking about this. Us with the firefighters here in Local 493, Peoria chapter, we represent 223 members currently in the city of Peoria in all different realms that are going into play. We compare against 13 different cities. So just up there that you guys are seeing, these are the 13 cities that we've agreed as a city currently that we compare against in our market analysis for firefighting and where we're going to play. We have had some conversations to possibly expand this because over the last handful of years, our fire districts have had massive growth within the valley, and they're starting to compete, let's say, a little bit better in some of those areas and steal the best candidates away from organizations like ours because they create a good product out there also. We know they're bumped up against us in the west side that we have going on through AFMA and the Sun City West area and along with Sun City that's into those areas. But anywho, we're keeping that in there. These are the areas that we're coming into. Market adjustments, COLA, it shifted on our presentation, so apologize for that little faux pas right there. But we know them as COLAs around the city, but when it comes to COLAs, that's usually an entire city benefit that goes across, right? When we talk about our things coming into negotiations, we like to talk about market adjustments because we're not competing necessarily against the water department or the police department or the parks department in those different areas, although we're a part of the same budgeting of money. What we're looking to do is say, hey, we want to be competitive in our market to attract the best firefighter, paramedics, and EMTs and raise them up to stay here for almost 28 years on average throughout a career, and drive the force forward and believe in what we've created as an area. So when we talk about those areas and being competitive, that's a big area in there. The next thing is total compensation. What you're getting paid on the paycheck is just one thing. We know that in the Valley right now in our organization that Peoria has a tremendous reputation, especially in the fire service. We're leaders in a multitude of areas. We built out the TRT program that everybody used. We have a great relationship with our hazmat team, rescue swimmer, and most recently the team that we've been building with the aviation team that's coming on a par. But way before we ever had an aviation unit, our TRT techs have been trained up to work off the helicopters, whether it was Ranger 41 or working with MCSO across the ways over the years. That's been a tremendous thing that we've been in there. Not to mention where our paramedics are and our EMTs in the service that they give. We bring a mini ER towards your house, and that's why we're able to do so many things, and I think that's why people feel so safe living here. So bringing that type in, there's more to the compensation pack than just a pay setup, and we think that will be there. Future stability, this is always a big thing that comes into play because our firefighters can't be on the truck forever. I mean, as myself, 42 years old, and I've just lost the only career that I've ever wanted to do, and you kind of feel lost a little bit, out there. The injuries stop you from doing those types of things. Well, most of our firefighters, they're usually retiring within about 55 to 60 years old, and there's a gap to cover before we become Medicare eligible. Not to say that you can't be older and still productive, but we do know that the gear that we have on there, the beats that we have coming down from our job can really pound down on you, and it's not always easy to be out there on the front line, much like some of our military and our police officers out there, right? It's hard to have that gear on, be chasing people down, be helping people, picking them up, going in those areas. So some of these trust benefits and 457s allow to bridge that gap for healthcare costs that we don't have covered. That's how we usually build them in, and we're hoping to build upon those. Attraction, long-term health, and retention. We know that those are some of the best things. When it comes to attracting, we want the best people here. We want to steal away from those 13 cities, right? Unfortunately, over the years, we've kind of gotten stuck in that, what we call upper middle area, and some of the departments that have been behind us have made a real push forward to jump in front of us and attract away our best people. And for the first time in our career, we've been stolen from by some of those smaller departments, and we're hoping to stop that and build upon that and keep them here for the long run in our area. Retention, keeping them for the long haul, that's a huge benefit that comes out of there. And long-term health is just what I'm talking about. We have a lot of things that are going on and where we're exposed a lot more. Cancer, as they say, most people, about 22% roughly of the population is going to experience cancer at some point in time. In our occupation, that's up to about 68% of our members develop that. Some cancers are 350 times more likely for us to get those, and that's been a big concern. We know that there was a portion, some of our council members have been here for that push, to commit to our cancer thing. Why is that? Because it's been close to home for us. We've currently lost, over the years, 4 of our members to occupational cancer. 2 of them were outside of the benefit area that comes into play, but 2 of them were categorized as line of duty deaths, but they developed those. We've also been able to catch and treat numerous amounts of occupational cancer that come up, and we want to continue that commitment into there. And we appreciate where you guys have been in the past, and we hope you'll stay there in the future, because that is a real concern, and it's a real concern of the people getting into the fire service because of all those exposures we have. Cardiac and mental health has become a huge thing, as we know, all the way around, but with the amount of death and kind of carnage that we see, it's a build upon. We have a great program, and we have leaders on our executive team, not only on our board, but through Chief Bernard and his, that are building that stuff out there and on committees all across the state and the nation, bringing mental health forward, not just for responders, but for all in the community to make sure that we're staying safe. We're out there doing those things. Even 493 is going to be having a kickoff where we're hosting something in the coming year for the general community to make sure that there's an awareness going out there, because we know it affects everybody. Whoops, sorry. Background. This is a big thing. This is homage to you all up on the diocese for giving the direction, but City Manager Darwin, you and your team doing a phenomenal job out there when it comes to the financial well-being of our city. We know that you all have committed to resources that we need and will need in the future, but that only comes into play if we have sound financial management coming in from those areas. And I know that City Manager Darwin and his 3 deputy city managers that are out there pushing it, coming through, have kept our city in that upper area. We know that we're a financially conservative but strengthened city, right? We're not having those big dips and spending roller coasters that other cities are having, and we commend you on that. The things that we just like to remind you is where we want to be. We want to be riding that with you and in the trenches when it has to hold tight, which we have done over our career. When there was time to give things back and be a part of it, the firefighters were the first ones to step to the table and give things back. The only other things that we like to put out there is how other things of funding besides our sound financial management is that firefighters are not eligible for Social Security. That's something unique to our state and some other states around. We have the fire insurance premium tax that comes back to us when it comes in every year. And then we've been on the forefront of pension reform. Firefighters have always sat there when we knew things were coming into play. Our membership overall, it's kind of crazy to think of all the fire departments around the country. We're one of 148, right, that are accredited by 2 different agencies coming into play. So what does that mean? Not only do we uphold the standards that the city of Peoria has set forth and our leader, Chief Gary Bernard, has put into place and instills in all of us, but we meet or excel above other accreditation standards to make sure that we're meeting everything that's all around the country. Bring that back. So when you're making decisions to fund the fire department, to help the firefighters out, you know that it's just not us throwing an idea and sticking it to the wall. We're out there with many different areas coming into play and bring that in. We have an all hazards fire department, which means not only are we bringing the emergency room to your house in a way to come in, but we have lake operations, we have air operations, we have search and rescue, we have hazmat, we're all the paramedics that come in, we have community events that come in, community paramedicine that takes care of some of our lower acuity calls and are able to keep those people from pressuring our hospitals and coming into play. We're also a heart safe city and a premier EMS agency through DHS. That's a proud honor to have. What does that mean? That means that your paramedics and EMTs that are all firefighters out there are at the top end Our medical director, Gail Bradley, through working with Assistant Chief Justin Grosby, keep us on the cutting edge. That means if there's a new technique that we can bring forward to help our citizens when they're under distress out there, they're signing up for us to be a part of those, joining up with the U of A and other hospitals all around to bring the first class in medical care to your house and your emergencies that come in. We continue to expand services based on what our citizens want. Our Peoria Fires Charities has been committed since the very beginning. That was started when one of our firefighters, John Valentine, passed away of occupational brain cancer. And we were taking care of one of our own by passing the hat. That isn't something that we forgot. We believe in this city. Josh Manning right here. He's growing, he's born, he's bred. He's went to our high schools. He continues to raise his family here and be that. And you hear me say that all the time. Those 6 block letters on our back aren't just a paycheck. They're where we live, they're where we pay our taxes, they're where we commit to the resources and raise our families and commit to what this has to stand for, right? More than 60% of our organization is here, playing at those schools, investing in those parks, paying the same taxes that we accidentally pay, and believing in you all sitting up there in the direction that we're going. And we thank you for that. It doesn't come without anything. Those kids that are back there doing those reading programs, we have reading programs in schools, we have CPR programs in schools, we had our backpack drive. We adopt families of all level, from youth to senior. We've created own programs out of our own pockets where we pitch money into accounts that when people have an emergency and they haven't been able to stay, we're able to take money out of our own pockets and go get them a hotel room, buy them what they need, build a ramp. You see the plethora of things. We believe that the only way that we can invest in the city of Peoria is putting our money where our mouth is and believing in it as much as you all do. And that's what we do. And we want to continue that commitment through those areas. Pay deficits you guys have gotten over there, and all this means when we're looking into play is we believe when we shake hands and sign a contract that we're committed to that. We're partners in this play all the way around the board. All that happened is when we signed our contract, we signed it at the start of everything. We kind of had some of the cities jump us, right? And we know that in order to retain some of our other employees around the rest of the city, we had to open up contracts and do those types of things. We understood that that puts a burden on the city. And we stood fast with you knowing that we would have our turn to sit at the table eventually, right? With that massive inflation, we're just asking that we come up out of there because we're the 7th largest city in Maricopa, depending on which one you look at, maybe the 6th. But I can tell you this, out of 3 or 4 of the departments in front of us, our fire department, your firefighter paramedics, are busier than those departments, running emergencies out there on the cutting edge, leading the way. We currently have 3 of the busiest trucks in the entire system and 4 of the busiest stations. That means that they're running nonstop to keep our citizens safe and any of the visitors that come through. We are not a number 7 city. We're definitely higher than that, and we hope that you'll look to get us into those areas based on where it's coming from. Last but not least, I know I talk a lot, so market competitive fire analysis. It's not just annual compensation, it's total compensation. Keep us with you because we're going to be here for the long run. Almost 28 years now is the average career that we're serving out there, committed to our citizens and everything that growth is coming in. Enhanced medical programs, because of our exposures, that is a scary thought. And that's one of our biggest worries is as more information continues to get out there, I didn't know anything except I wanted to help people when I became a firefighter. You were kind of oblivious to the dangers, and when you're a young, in your early 20s coming in, I think you feel invincible. But I can tell you as someone that 5 years ago ate the front end of an explosion that came in off of the building and realized that my life had been completely changed because I had to make a decision as a captain to put my crew and my safety in front of others that we had never met so they could go home and be safe, and then you almost don't come home, and the people that you're in charge of don't get to go home and see their families. And after 2.5 months of mixtures between the critical care unit, the burn unit, and rehab to learn how to walk again, you come back and your entire world's been changed up. Our people are on the first line running in there to look out for you, your safeties, and people that we don't even know. Please look out for their medical benefits on the long run and keep them in with some different things that we need from other employees. And last, parity of city benefits. We're all in the same city. There are some benefits that should be equally out. We know that we need to keep that balanced. We understand the books and that troubled times, and we know that we're going to make it through a good negotiation as it comes up. With that, Bree, it's going to be a great time to have a second go-around with you. I look forward to seeing what Josh and the team can do, and I can't thank all of you enough for the years of service that you've allowed me to have here. It's been an absolute pleasure of my life, and I'm going to not lose it, even though some of you have seen me lose it before, so I'll answer any questions from that point.
Sir Schaefer.
Thank you, Mayor. Hunter, great presentation. Congratulations on the new role. And Josh, congratulations on the captain promotion. So real quick, I heard time and time again that healthcare and that gap between when you retire and Medicare is the issue. And at the end there, Hunter, you talked about other opportunities to help bridge with the healthcare. Outside of the trust, what other opportunities is the department that you need looking for?
Yeah, so thank you for the question, Mr. Schaefer. Mayor, rest of the council, as we come on over, some of the things that we've been able to build, we've been lucky enough to beef up the 457 and keep in the trust area, because that's a big thing for us, is covering that healthcare gap. I can tell you this, we're not just relying on the city to be the only ones that cover it. We are looking for ways to possibly see if there's a way that employees could potentially stay on the city plan with them owning the burden of paying the areas that are there, but that tends to be cheaper going into the long run. But I want you to know that you're not standing in this alone as one aspect that we're looking to. Through our IFF at the international level and at the state level, we are trying to create more statewide healthcare that is created towards our firefighters, where again, we're putting our money in, including creating legislation that comes over that allows the firefighters to buy back in at a portion of the cost to keep your rates down. Because here's the real thing of it. Early on in our careers, when we're healthy, we're very cheap to employ, right? As we get older and we get beat up, we become very expensive. That's also the time where we're getting ready to retire. So it's trying to balance that out. It's not just being there when we're helping the rest of the city keep their healthcare premiums down, but helping us when we get out and when we get booted onto our own, that it's taking so much of their pension check just to make things fit. I don't know if that answers it, but hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? You and I have talked about this a lot for the last couple of years. I feel like you just put us through firefighter church, because you were honestly one of the most passionate people I've ever met, and I deal with public safety all over the world. Very few people that I've run into have experienced what you've experienced, but more importantly, are looking out for others for a level of service than more than you're looking out for yourself. And I have to tell you, I not only appreciate your service, but I absolutely, the sermon that you just gave, because I don't know what else to classify it as. Every single firefighter that is not just in Peoria, but anywhere, should be proud of what you do. So really appreciate the service that you're giving, but also kind of the education that you're actually providing for others as well. Not only for us as council, but also for, and Josh would attest by this, right? Everybody's got big shoes to fill from that standpoint, because you kind of set the tone and tenor for not only Peoria, but how other organizations should be looking out for their own in this situation. So very appreciative, man. And I know what you guys are going through from not only, with dealing with Vincere cancer and, looking at how we're actually trying to get more service, but it's a big deal to actually see people actually come to this level and the level of professionalism. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your words. I mean, we're very lucky to have leadership in you all. Some of you have been around for quite a long time. Some of us are still developing new relationships. And again, we have great management, and, we'd all be remiss as the firefighters. We have the best leadership team back there. Gary Bernard and his team of assistant chiefs that are all the way around, they're born and bred Peoria. They believe in this place just the same way that they do. And I believe that they rise to every challenge that is put before by City Manager Darwin and his team. And we will try to meet and surpass those all the time. And thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, so we're getting started on Thursday. We're already ready to go. Are you ready to go, Josh? We got a lot of work to do. All right, let's do this. So our plan is to work really, really hard. We only have really not that many weeks when you look at holidays, et cetera. So our plan, hopefully you guys agree, is to be here on or before December 17 with an agreed upon contract between the groups for your guys' reviews. So with that, thank you very much, and we'll be talking to you guys very soon and giving you updates along the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. So now, tonight we have one CFD to run through as council. As such, I would like to call the Vistancia Community Facilities District Board meeting to order. Will the clerk please note the roll? We will now move on to the CFD consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda, this is just for the CFD, are routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion unless a request for removal has been prior received, which has not. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda on the Vistancia Community Facilities District Board meeting?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please vote. And it passes 6-1. There being no further business, I hereby declare the CFD board meeting adjourned. We will now move to the regular agenda, meeting consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion unless the request for removal has been prior approval. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please vote. And it passes 7-0. Thank you. We will now move for the regular agenda and introduce new business. I now recognize City Manager Mr. Henry Darwin to introduce 21R.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, Deputy City Manager Mike Faust will lead the discussion on and seeking council approval for an amendments to the city code pertaining to the development impact fee update, and he's promised me that there's only 65 slides today. Mike, take it away.
Ranger.
Thank you, Mr. Darwin, Mayor, Council. I feel out. The first time up, I had to follow a bunch of great kids and artists, and then I had to just follow up Hunter Clare. So that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. Before I get started tonight, I do want to acknowledge just a couple of things. You know, this has been a long conversation around impact fees, and we've presented lots of information, but none of this has been possible without the work of the team and the staff in the city. They're phenomenal, and I specifically want to acknowledge Anna Hudson and Ben Ganatas, who's put in an immense amount of time to get us to this point. And thank the CIP team in development engineering who's worked on all the estimates that go in the background. There's hundreds of hours that go into this thing, and where there's still some outstanding questions, maybe not full alignment, the level of energy and effort to get this right has been immense. And I'd be wrong if I just didn't take a moment to thank them. So as we go in, as Henry has said, I have 65 slides minus 61, so we have 4 slides to talk through tonight. This particular table, we started with that yellow arrow all the way at the top. So there has been 6 public meetings. There have been 3 stakeholder meetings, and we have gone through an immense amount of information. So tonight, we're not here to bore you with that again. I think we've reached out individually, had conversations as a group, as individuals, to get to this point. More than happy to answer any questions that you may have, but going through 100 slides again is definitely not why these people are behind us this evening. But did want to highlight just a couple of things that are new, what you would have received in the council communication and packages, the draft ordinance. And just, there's 2 sections in the ordinance of chapter alterations, specifically chapter 20 in the development fees section. There were some updates to definitions. There was some, specifically the mixed use fee type got updated. There was some cleanup, the service areas that evolved a little bit, and all the other maps and things we've talked about cleaned up. The fee methodology was updated for a couple of topics. And then chapter 27, which contains the actual fee tables, were updated. And so you would have seen that in the ordinance, the draft ordinance that was given to you in the packet, as well as the standalone PDF document that had the maximum supportable fees. Since we were here, bloody hell, we were here on August 20th. Since we were here on August 20th, we have made no other alterations. So what you saw at that time all remains true, remains constant. We didn't bring all of the fees, but I think this is one that just stands out, and so we just wanted to provide the summaries for the single-family residential homes throughout the city. And again, looking at the southern end, south of Bell Road on project, this is the most mature part of our city, where you see there's no transportation fee, there's no water resources fees, because again, you don't need them in these spaces. You see the lowest fees for water and wastewater because that infrastructure already exists. Police and fire are constant throughout the whole city, and so you'll see that reflected. And then as you work on that table from left to right, as you hit the less mature portions of the city, invariably the fees go up. So as we head north, get north of Bell Road, or even south of Bell Road, but on CAP water, not SRP, you see a slight increase. Again, then you get north of Bell Road, and you see a slightly more increase, and that's specifically because the water fee and the water distribution system has additional growth that needs to go through. And then when you get further into these other zones, you now start to have some park fees. And really the standout one is the transportation fees. So once you get east of the Agua Fria, call it north of Deer Valley Road, a transportation fee comes in, and that really does give a standout number. But again, as you look from left to right, you have the least mature to the most mature. So when you get west of the Agua Fria, Vistancia, Saddleback Heights, things like that, there is a lot of infrastructure still necessary. And most notably where you see the high fees is in roads, because there's a lot of roadway network that still has to be constructed, and water and wastewater, because those wastewater treatment systems and water distribution are not cheap, especially in today's market. So we'll avail myself for any questions here in a second, but staff is recommending adoption of ordinance 2024-14, amending chapters 27 of the city code to adopt the 2024 development impact fees. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Councilor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike, I had a question. So I've heard somewhere, and I don't remember where, but can you talk a little bit about the adoption of these fees, and are they going to negatively impact small businesses? I've heard this a couple times. Can you clarify?
Mayor, Vice Mayor Edwards, I too have heard this, and overwhelmingly, I'm going to say no. And the reason I say that is because these fees are charged for net new construction. So I'll give you an example. We just had a local business owner open a taco restaurant in right off of Northern. Impact fees would not be attributable to that. So even though they may have come in and done a tenant improvement package and done some drawings, it's not net new construction, so they're not paying impact fees. And I think predominantly we can say that those small businesses going into those types of spaces would not be impacted by this by any stretch of the imagination.
Thank you.
I'm going to call the public on some of this. So Ms. Lorene Bodorf.
Hi, Mayor and Council. My name is Lorene Bodorf, and I live on North 128th Drive in the Mesquite District. I'm in favor of the new development impact fees. I've heard rumblings that mom and pop shops will not be able to afford it, or that developers will be deterred from building up here. I don't buy it because I look all around us and building is happening everywhere. Building infrastructure is a cost of building new developments. It's the cost of doing business. Previously existing homes and developments will not be impacted by these fees, only new developments. Obviously, every family and business has to make their own decisions based on financial and situations of their own. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Mr. John Forsyth.
Good evening. I am John Forsyth. I'm here to give a hard no to these impact fees. These impact fees are a tax. I'm curious, I know why, that the city of Peoria has mismanaged their money. Our impact fees are going to the highest impact fees of almost any city here in Maricopa County. It's just unacceptable. Impact fees are a tax, they're inflationary, and they never go away. So once they're here to stay. Even the newspapers are picking up that the city of Peoria is spending way too much money. I mean, we're making the San Francisco City Council look good. The North and West Valleys, we have a history of failed public works projects. And this is really what this is going to support. Impact fees support public roads, streets, police, fire. One of the most famous of wealthy people trying to get even richer was the Lincoln financial collapse of the 80s, brought on the Keating Five. The West and North Valley still have 3 scars from this financial calamity. Sun Valley Parkway, an $82 million parkway that extends behind South Mountain. It's never been used, still fully underutilized. Estrella Mountain was actually part of the Keating legacy. It's still not built out. And probably the one closest here is the Industrial Center at 19th Avenue and Bell Road. It's 25% built out, but yet the people continue to pay for these projects that never met their full potential. The impact fee is going up because we've just mismanaged our money. We need more money to build out roads, infrastructure, or to build super roads to projects that yet to exist. So the developers don't have to pay for them themselves. Everybody has seen a neighborhood that is being built. The developer is required to finish out the expansion of the road in their section. I'll guarantee a developer can do it a heck of a lot cheaper than any city government can do it. So this fund, and when I say I don't trust this government, we have a lot of hardworking employees that, man, they got a tough job. They're stuck between you guys and us, the people. I don't know how they do it. But the airport keeps coming up in this. We're going to build this parkway to the airport. It's going to make the land valuable. It's going to make the land usable. It's going to make the Arizona Land Department going to want to sell it to us instead of another bidder. Everything keeps coming around to this airport. We take a step back and we see actions that this council has done the last 6 months. We've got a lot of airport stuff. And the people don't want it. Yet you guys keep jamming this down our throats.
Mr. Tom Bodorf.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Tom Bodorf. I live in the Trilogy at Vistantia community, and I strongly support the adoption of item 21R this evening. At the August 20th City Council meeting, Deputy City Manager Mike Faust eloquently explained in detail the reasoning and the purpose of impact fees, full transparency. Mayor Beck then augmented Mr. Faust's presentation with terms that sealed the deal for me, and I now firmly maintain that position that the mayor, city council, and staff hold, as I am in full agreement with it. Peoria is comprised of 6 districts. We need to occasionally remind the residents of Mesquite District that Peoria exists well below Happy Valley Road. In fact, 5/6 of the city's population lives there. It is not moral or ethical for the citizenry of Peoria, which includes Pine and Acacia districts far away from Vistantia, and the soon-to-be Saddleback Heights, to pay for the high cost of new construction that's occurring in the northern part of our city. As I listened intently at the August 20th council meeting and heard all of the arguments against the necessary increase in impact fees, not a single one of them countered the fundamental responsibility of our city to behave in a moral and ethical fashion. In fact, some of the arguments were flat out false. Statements like, these fees will drive away businesses, prevent mom and pop restaurants from locating here, and prevent developers and builders from engaging in Peoria. There's no basis for this line of thought, and yet it's yet another example of an attitude of selfishness that seems to have a foothold among a growing number of Mesquite District residents. In my opinion, these unfounded arguments are just another example of fear-based misinformation. Just like airplanes flying at low altitude over pretty much every home in the entire northern part of the city, before a flight path has even been determined. The ridiculous assertion that our city leadership lacks transparency and that, quote, finishing Paloma Park is more important than cleaning up our parks throughout the rest of the city and keeping them safe by investing in public safety. My sincere hope is that we can indeed become one Peoria, and that the folks in the northern sector might begin to address the growth in that area in a responsible, moral, and ethical fashion. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Council members, any other questions at all? Mr. Faust, anything? All right, so I'm going to make a statement. So this is a map of the city of Peoria. Sorry, John. As I almost take out the council member. The reason that we have impact fees at a lower cost in the southern part of the city, can anybody tell me why? Mr. Faust, can you tell me why?
Mr. Mayor, Council, it's because the majority of the infrastructure in the south is already constructed, and so as such, it's a mature part of the city.
It's the mature part of the city and it's already constructed. So first, we had a gentleman come up and say that this is a tax. The only time that a fee is actually added to a purchase of a home, meaning an item comes out of the ground. That means new construction. That does not mean current homes. That does not mean current taxpayers. That means somebody choosing to bring something, I'm going to use this as an example, up above the ground and actually construct it. So to say that the tax is a lie. It is a fee. And the problem with this is to try to ethically, I'm going to point out something I've said before, to try to ethically believe that you should ethically or morally have the same fees for North Peoria that is not built out for new construction and be able to add that fee to people that are in the south is not ethical. And anybody that does is flawed. And I'm going to say it straight out, absolutely flawed. It is stealing from literally people that have lesser than to add more than. And that's not a correct way, that's not the American way, and it's certainly not what we're going to do in Peoria. So when we look at the fee structure here, one, this is not a tax. Two is this takes the burden off the actual existing taxpayers. I want everybody to understand that. Out of the 200,000 citizens that live here, we either add these fees and we actually do this appropriately, and they have not been adjusted appropriately over the course of the years for a reason. So we can either tax people all over the city to build roads in Saddleback Heights for a developer that has plenty of money to do that, and we can take money from Pine and Acacia and other districts and citizens in those districts to do that, which is not moral or ethical. So we're going to vote on this. We're going to vote as a council. Anybody that doesn't understand this question of new construction, because I've talked to developers, I've talked to business owners that are incoming, large and small, as well as developers that are actually building homes, and everybody is on this path, but for some reason, this seems to be a game of how we should actually steal money from other people in other areas. So I think you can understand how I'm going to vote on this. I do not believe it is moral or ethical to take money from other people's pockets that have lesser than to build homes in North Peoria that are going to be $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. I don't even know if you can find a home for $600,000 in Vistancia. Saddleback is literally talking about $850,000 and above. You're talking about a $31,000 fee on that home. Is it fair to do that to somebody in downtown Peoria? Ask yourself that. Council, do I have a motion to approve agenda item 21R? Do I have a second? Please vote. Go figure, it passes 6-1. Thank you. We understand who's ethical and moral. Next on the agenda is call to the public. As a reminder, each speaker shall refrain from personal attacks, foul or abusive language, and will maintain a civil and courteous manner and tone. Members of the audience shall respect the rights of others and will not create noise or other disturbances that will disrupt or disturb the meeting. By state law, the council is not authorized to discuss or take action by issues raised to the public. Comments till a later date. With that, Mr. Joe Clure.
Good morning, Joe Clure, Mesquite District. I'm here to talk about the false narrative that's being spread up in Mesquite District as it relates to transparency on the part of the council and the city. Part of that is being done by Councilman Schaefer when he sent out an email on September the 4th, reference to the Hyperion Project, and he said in that email, last night I was made aware of a new potential development in the Mesquite District via media article. Needless to say, I became extremely frustrated as I read about this project, especially as it was my first time hearing about it. I was at this council meeting on the 17th, and a presentation was made about Hyperion, and it's clear that since 2022, Hyperion has been talked about and presented to this council by city staff who give it, I believe, to every council person, not just some, but they've talked about that. The information was it was a project that was not funded yet, but it was potentially in the works. I sent Mr. Schaefer an email on September 20 asking him one question. Did you or did you not get the information prior to your September 4th email that you sent out to all Mesquite districts saying that you had never heard of this project? I got back an email late today, and he didn't answer the question. He provided some excuses, which he has a right to do. But my point is, if you've heard about it, then it's not the first time you heard about a, quote, new project. That's, in my opinion, deceptive and causes furtherance of this false narrative as it relates to the lack of transparency on the part of the council. I simply asked my councilmen, send out a correction email so that all these people that saw it on social media and what have you know that in fact it wasn't, I presume, the first time you heard about this project, because it leads to this belief that he's being kept in the dark. He may be in the dark, but that may be by his own doing. If he doesn't pay attention or listen to what's going on in presentations of council, that's his fault. That's a whole nother topic. But I hope Councilman Schaefer does the right thing, sends out a clarification email that in fact the city council was not deceptive or was transparent in the Hyperion project, because his email on the 4th definitely feeds into this false narrative. Don't be a part of the, I have to believe it's intentional at this point. I think it's political. You need to do the right thing, Mr. Schaefer. And I hope you have the intestinal fortitude to share with the mayor what you shared with me before the meeting, because I'm gonna. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Mr. John Forsyth.
Well, I did say that democracy should become heated sometimes. I guess I'm getting my wish. I want to talk about the last council meeting, and I guess a little bit of this as well. It's been interesting as a constitutionalist, I'll tell you that. Let me describe it as this. I saw an online comment that the opposition to this administration got what we wanted with Matt Bullock. And that was an interesting statement. The majority of the Mesquite residents voted for Matt Bullock, not the opposition. But wait a minute, I guess the opposition is the majority. This is real interesting in a democracy. Well, every time I've come here, I've said this is not a democracy. So I guess I'm being proven correctly. More than just Matt being elected, 77% of the Mesquite district voters, we're the only district that had a choice in the primary, voted for either Laura Page or Matt Bullock, which campaigned against everything this council right now is doing. The people are upset, and yet you just keep doing the same old, same old. I can tell you that there's multiple committees forming right now to recall some of you. I'm sure no one's scared. You know, you can't buy your way out of a recall effort. Is it a tough mountain? Sure. Am I going to sign that form? Sure. But the people are speaking, and our elected representatives choose not to listen. This is going to get worse. People are starting to speak up. If I heard Constitution, if your personal Constitution isn't strong enough to put up with this, I would suggest you quit now. Quit before the end of the year. After the first of the year, the City Council and Mayor Beck get to choose your replacement. If you quit before the end of the year, the people get a special election. That is how a democracy works. That is how our Constitution works. I carry this with everywhere I go. Thanks for paying attention, Mayor Beck. It's appreciated.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure. Miss Brittany Johnson.
Hello, Mayor and council members. My name is Brittany Johnson, and I both live and work in our great city. I've talked to a lot of people about an idea that I think would benefit the residents of Peoria and our great community. The concept is a children's memorial garden to remember and recognize children who have died too soon. I've visited several of these gardens in other states and communities. They are incredible and unique areas that create peace and beauty for the whole community. There is no such place in the Phoenix metropolitan area, and I believe that Peoria would be an ideal location for one. The closest of these parks are located in Tucson and Flagstaff. I know there are people who are willing to contribute to such a space to partially or even completely fund this project. I've reached out to the city a number of times to try to share this concept, and I'm not sure that I was reaching the right people. So I was hoping that I could be pointed in the right direction to share this project idea. I believe it would be a great asset to our great city and would serve an overlooked and underserved sector of families in our city. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. If you two would stay afterwards, I would like to meet with you. Thank you. Ms. Shannon, we already voted on the item, but you're welcome to speak on it. Okay.
I wanted to say thank you to the firefighters that are here. I appreciate what you guys do. You always help out my mom and you help me out, so I appreciate you very much. Thank you. Okay, so last week give me just a second so I can organize my thoughts. Last week when I spoke, I'd just like to clarify my comments regarding Biscuit Flats. I misspoke out of nervousness as discussing these issues that directly affect me and my family and a city I love immensely and grew up in. It's challenging because I tend to get a little emotional about it, and I need to rein that in. So that being said, I do understand that Biscuit Flats is state land and most likely will be acquired by the city of Phoenix. My hope is and was that our city council members would meet with the Phoenix City Council and everybody that's involved in developing that land, and that you would prioritize the needs of residents and constituents over industrial interests. While I recognize that much of this involves federal and state decisions, Peoria had the opportunity and has the opportunity to either oppose the level of industrialization planned for our community or at least listen to our concerns and try to implement some of them, because not all of them are bad ideas. My other concern is if none of this works out and it turns out bad, what are we, we don't know how, whatever. Anyway, rapid development can often lead to poor planning, especially if it's driven by the pursuit of federal grants or incentives for large corporations and companies. It's crucial that city leaders to ensure that the growth that's occurring benefits the entire community, not just those corporations that are coming in. And as citizens, it's important to understand how being in a foreign trade zone affects local economies and job opportunities. Ideally, such designation should lead to increased local jobs and economic benefits, but unfortunately, that's not always the case. Transparency and community engagement in these decisions are vital to ensure that growth is sustainable and even-handed. And I think my concerns reflect a need for a more thoughtful approach that prioritizes the need and the well-being of residents. I have concerns and want to highlight significant issues regarding economic strategy and community impact. Relying heavily on single industry can lead to long-term problems like in Detroit, and I feel like we're putting all of our eggs in a tech basket. It's crucial for city leaders to foster a diverse business environment that considers the needs and voices of long-term residents. I would like to see city employees, elected or unelected, work more on behalf of the taxpayers. It's important that city officials engage with the community and reflect their preferences, especially when it comes to development decisions that will affect their quality of life. It would be beneficial for leaders to actively seek input and explore diverse economic opportunities that support slower, sustainable growth while respecting existing residents. I am deeply frustrated with how development decisions are impacting the community and its character. Many residents value the unique charm in open spaces like Cave Creek and Queen Creek, and it's understandable to be concerned when those are being replaced by more housing. Foreign trade zone, oh, darn it, okay.
I was trying to let you go as long
I
as I could.
appreciate it. I do, genuinely, I do. With the foreign trade zones, just quickly, I have looked up everywhere how they benefit local municipalities. If anybody has any information on that or could explain it to me, how it's going to benefit me and the city, the citizens here in Peoria, I would very much appreciate it. I'm not necessarily against it. I just can't find any of the pros and the cons, and that's frustrating. Thank you.
I understand. We'll have somebody come speak with you, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I know I just volunteered probably 2 people over there. Everybody points to Rick. Did you see all the fingers go? Everybody's like, he's going to go explain foreign trade zones. Yeah. You see how literally there was like 6 hands over there. Councilor Dunn?
So I'd like to address some comments, whether inferred directly. I have always sat up here and voted my conscience. Last administration, I voted my conscience. This administration, I vote my conscience. But more importantly, I vote because I interact with my residents. I meet quarterly with them. Impact fees are the one thing that I did vote for, but not without consideration. I voted for it not because Jason was squeezing me, and this political stuff has to stop, because out of everybody up here on this dais, I think I have paid the biggest price, both administrations. So this political infighting has to stop. Let's do what's right for the city. Let's take each and everything that we vote on and ask ourselves, what do the people in our district want? I know I met with my district. Eva's one of the members in my Citizens Advisory Committee. I met with them. I discussed, we talked about impact fees. I asked, do you want them? Do you not? What do you think? So I got their input. The North is divided right now. And you talk about listen to what the people want. It's not listening to just one section of it. It's listening to as many people as you can and using your discernment and trying to do the best you can for your citizens. And that's what I do faithfully. And so I've been threatened so many times. I'm telling you, I'm going to do what's right for my citizens, for the people I serve, and until the day I don't sit up here anymore. So thanks.
I now recognize City Manager Mr. Darwin to give the city report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, I just have a few things to report on tonight. The first thing I wanted to call our collective attention to is an event that occurred on September 17th in Peoria. We, in conjunction with Global Ties Arizona, hosted leaders from 10 different countries as part of their International Visitor Leadership Program. This shows our commitment to international business. Global Ties works with the State Department to bring leaders from other countries in support of U.S. public diplomacy and to further U.S. foreign policy objectives. This specific group had leaders from 10 different countries with a focus on global economic cooperation, and they were particularly interested in to learn in how a city such as Peoria can thrive in a diverse economy. Also, I think Mike mentioned this earlier today. We had a ribbon cutting celebrating the grand opening of Tacos and Crafts. Vice Mayor Edwards was in attendance. It's located at 9340 West Northern Avenue. It's run by the Ramos family, and it's known for authentic Mexican cuisine made from scratch daily using fresh ingredients. Welcome to Peoria. The next thing I want to mention, once again, recognizing our diverse economic development efforts. Our staff attended the 28th annual Datos Conference. This is to discuss an annual report, which is from a highly regarded source. It's considered the premier annual evaluation of the state of Arizona's Hispanic market. And it's, I'd want to give a quick shout out to Peoria's own Susana Tersante, who serves on the Datos Content Committee and helped compile this annual report. Switching to not only water security, but public security, on September 23rd, we conducted a tabletop exercise, which is a mock set of emergencies, both technical and man-made, both accidental and purposeful. We had 25 key personnel from the Water Services Department, our IT department, and the Office of Communications participated in this event. And it was intended to, designed to evaluate various scenarios related to water security policies, protocols, cybersecurity measures, and operator awareness. This session yielded valuable insights into areas where we needed improvement, where we needed to, and we created actionable items from this exercise and reflected on key takeaways. Staff has reported back that this was a resounding success, and I want to thank everyone who was involved, and we plan to host more exercises in the future to further enhance our preparedness. And Mayor, I know you've had a particular interest in our performing these types of tabletops exercises, given the unfortunate state of the world and how that might impact Peoria and its residents. So I wanted to let you and council know that we take that issue very seriously. We have a particular interest in securing our water resources, but we have more similar type tabletop exercises planned for other areas of our operations. And last but certainly not least, we want to give our congratulations to Peoria's own retired United States Marine Corps First Sergeant Tad Snittikor, who will be inducted into the Unified Arizona Veterans Hall of Fame on November 1st. He serves on the city's Veteran Advisory Board and is a member of Senator Sinema's Veterans Advisory Council. Please join me in congratulating Tad Snittikor on this honor. And that is my report for this evening, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Council Youth Liaisons. Sarah?
Our committees for the Youth Advisory Board, they all met, and they further discussed their plans for the upcoming semester, school semester, till December. And yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the Youth Advisory Board members this past month participated in our monthly community service opportunities, which included a bingo night at the community center, a cleanup of the community garden, and several tabling events. And we also had last week a night to prepare for the West Valley Youth Summit Conference, which the Youth Advisory Board members will be attending this Saturday, along with 80 other youth representatives from 6 West Valley cities. Thank you.
Thank you. And for mayor's report and comments, so tomorrow, October 2nd, is the National Coffee Day with a Cup. Why not donuts? What's up with that? Sorry, no? Yeah, like you guys are into scones now? Is that more? Going paleo. Peoria PD will be at Panera Bread at Bell Road and 75th Avenue from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So please stop by if you get a chance. You can ask them questions, build relationships with our local law enforcement. This week I signed 2 proclamations for the month of October. The first proclamation I signed was Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides the opportunity to enhance education, prevention, and intervention efforts around domestic violence and support organizations that provide advocacy efforts and assist victims. In honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, City Hall will be lit purple to emphasize Peoria's ongoing commitment to education, intervention, and prevention efforts. I also signed the proclamation for celebrating October 2025. I got new hearing aids, maybe I should get new glasses. That was a joke on my getting older, but okay. A proclamation on celebrating October 2024 as Hindu Heritage Month. Peoria is proud to honor the contributions of the community service efforts from our Hindu communities locally and across the valley. Last but not least, I would like to, we are in the political season, and we all know what is happening in 40 some odd days, 48 days. I was asked a question this morning about our governor, and I happen to want our governor to succeed. She's of a different political party than mine, but I want her to succeed. Why? Because I don't see committing suicide as a state and trying to wish upon somebody else that's in leadership failure. It makes zero sense whatsoever. But that seems to be the culture that we're actually in right now. We heard that earlier from an obvious threat that was actually focused on a council member. Instead of actually focusing on how we're actually trying to build the city and actually work together to try to accomplish things, maybe we should actually do that as a nation. We should teach that in our families at home with our kids. I certainly do, and I think others do. But if we teach our kids that way, and we actually teach them incorrectly that they're supposed to build and draw up in the mire and chew each other up instead of actually trying to find success with one another, how are we going to be a nation after all this is done? That's not just here at home. It's not just here in the city of Peoria. It's across our state, which I want to succeed. It's across our country, which I want us to succeed. And we all should be working together to be able to try to solve those problems. So let's try to remember that as we are in this political season and afterwards as well. So thank you, and we are adjourned.